it was time to put their foot down. The Ankh of Earth were too proud of themselves and their accomplishments. They had begun to disobey collective procedures and requests. It was almost to the point that rebellion against the central authority of the collective order must be restored to the earth, and firm control of the political situation regained. So the collective delegation sent Satan and the rest of the Ankh factions on earth a list of orders to be carried out immediately. Most were simple rules and directives designed to reestablish firmer control by the council. But there was one directive which caused Satan and his followers to become enraged. The council had ordered all Elohims to be destroyed, and all those Ankh who had been intimate with them to be removed from earth service and redeployed throughout the collective. Satan gathered all the leaders from the Ankh together for a special meeting. He showed them the orders demanding the destruction of their Elohims. The Ankh were outraged, not so much out of concern over Elohim welfare, but more so at the loss of valuable assets. Then Satan put forth a proposal. He said that they should not obey the collective and that they form a separate authority here on earth. Thus began the rebellion. This is a very complex and important time, so I should expand on certain points before continuing. The events that are about to transpire led to a civil war among the collective. It is not the first, but is the largest and the bloodiest. It is important that you understand which side was which. Satan's power over the various family factions that were here on earth had grown enormously. When news spread of his decision, the various family members here on earth and throughout the solar system had to choose between staying loyal to their main family back home and the collective, or side with those families on the earth and form a separate collective based around earth. Not all the Ankh here sided with Satan, but it was pretty close. Nearly all of the space-borne operations went to his side, including the orbital bases and transport services. These are key assets for him, and it was no accident that most of those in charge of these assets were either his own family or handpicked for their loyalty to him. The end result was a powerful strategic advantage. It gave him control of all the solar system and effectively isolated those factions who chose to stay loyal to the collective. In all, over 2/3 of the forces throughout the Earth zone chose to side with Satan. They had become a very powerful force to be reckoned with. There was one thing he could not control, though, the Doma. Remember that the Doma had members in all families. This was so on the earth also. On earth, however, because of the political control that Satan had gained, the Doma had assumed an even tighter sisterhood. Of the 3/3 that had not sided with Satan, most were of the Doma. The Doma that existed on the earth now abandoned all loyalty to individual families and joined together as one. This is important, for the Doma throughout the collective had grown very powerful in two key areas: the biological research or medical areas and the military. None of the Doma military units on the earth went over to Satan's side. This caused him much consternation, but there was little he could do. The Doma on earth were very powerful militarily. Had he acquired the loyalty of these women, the events about to unfold would have a very different outcome. As it was, all the Doma, both in the collective and earth, declared neutrality. They would not fight against their own, the other Doma still on earth. You see, the collective thought that the Doma on earth, while not siding with Satan, had disassociated themselves from the main collective. Why? Because they had been the ones who had refused to destroy the Elohims. Why would they do this? Simply put, The Doma are the ones who created Ehumes in the first place. Before we get into the details of the Great War, we need to fully understand the Doma's involvement in Ehume evolution. Remember, I already mentioned that the Doma had concentrated on two areas, biological and military. It was a Doma-controlled genetic research team that was involved in the initial development of the Ehume slaves. If you check the ancient creation legends of Earth, you will find that nearly all of them show a female creator. In most, she is Great Mother. The Sumerian text from which the Hebrew version of Genesis was derived goes into this act of creation in great deal. I will not get into details here, but if you wish to know more, the Sumerian texts are your best source. I will use the Hebrew/Christian Bible as reference, as it is more available to most readers in the quote-unquote Western world. The team of geneticists who developed Ehumes were the Doma. They were a team, plural. This should help you understand one of the greatest mysteries of the Bible the following verse will explain. Genesis 1:26. And God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. You will not that the word God, which everyone takes for granted as meaning the one God, is not the original word. It is a lie, a deliberate and intentional falsehood inserted by your fellow men so that later theology meant to assert control over your lives would appear consistent. The original and correct word is Elohim. Wherever you see the word God in the Bible, you should reinstate the original word Elohim. What does the word Elohim mean? Elohim or Elohim. It means literally goddesses and gods. It is 100% plural, more than one, many, a whole bunch. Now the verse above makes a little more sense, doesn't it? Special note. In coming messages, we will be showing you how this type of deliberate word substitution has corrupted much of the Bible's true meaning. We will put right that which has been perverted by man. Once this is done, and you can read the original meaning, you will find that the Bible is a greater book of knowledge than was ever known. It will take on a new and much more meaningful part of your life. So now you know why it says, let us make men in our image after our likeness. Oh yes, what about the likeness part? I told you in the beginning that the collective is made up of humans. This is why you look like a human. To continue, the Doma created Ehumes by modifying an existing form of pre-humans. It is important that you understand these events, as they will tie in later and help explain some of what happened in the Great War and why. The Doma went further with their experiments, creating more quote-unquote breeds, if you will, of Ehumes. One of their greatest achievements, and consequently